The ship moved slowly toward the massive station that floated in the darkness of space. Park Tae-ho stood at the window and watched as the Galactic Council's headquarters grew larger. It was a beautiful structure, built from metals that glowed with soft blue light. Thousands of ships moved around it like insects around a hive. "Sir, we will dock in 10 minutes, said Lieutenant Kim Yuna from behind him. Tae-ho nodded but did not turn around. He had waited 3 years for this moment. Earth had sent dozens of requests to join the Galactic Council. Every request had been ignored. But now, finally, they had agreed to meet. He was 52 years old, with gray hair at his temples and calm eyes that rarely showed emotion. His diplomatic uniform was simple and clean. He looked like what he was supposed to be, a peaceful representative of humanity. But clothes could hide many things. The docking process was smooth. Tae-ho walked down the ramp with Yuna and 4 other staff members behind him. The station's air was cold and smelled strange, like flowers mixed with metal. Alien guards stood on both sides of the corridor. They were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. They looked at the humans with expressions that Tae-ho recognized immediately. Disgust, amusement, superiority. He had seen those looks before, in different eyes, on different worlds. It did not bother him. He had learned long ago that pride was a weakness in negotiation. Let them think what they wanted. Words and actions mattered more than expressions. The Grand Chamber was enormous. It could hold 10,000 beings, and today it was almost full. Representatives from over 300 species sat in floating platforms that circled the central stage. Light came from everywhere and nowhere. The walls showed images of galaxies spinning slowly. Tae-ho walked to the center platform alone. This was tradition, they had told him. The petitioner must stand alone before the council. High Arbiter Vorak looked down at him from the highest platform. The Arbiter was ancient, with skin like cracked stone and eyes that burned with cold fire. He had led the council for 600 years. He had seen species rise and fall. To him, humans were just another brief flame that would burn out soon enough. "You are the representative of Earth?" Vorak's voice filled the chamber, without any visible technology. "I am," Tae-ho replied. His voice was steady and calm. "I am Park Tae-ho, ambassador of the United Earth Government. I come in peace, with respect, and with hope for friendship." Silence followed his words. Then, slowly, laughter began. It started from a few platforms and spread until the whole chamber was filled with the sound. Different species laughed in different ways, but the meaning was the same. They were mocking him. Vorak raised one hand, and the laughter stopped. "Friendship," the Arbiter said, tasting the word like something bitter. "Your species has been traveling between stars for only 87 years. In that time, you have fought 3 wars with your own colonies. You have destroyed 2 of your own space stations in conflicts. Your history is written in blood and fire." Tae-ho did not react. "Every species has a difficult past, High Arbiter. We do not deny our history. We learn from it." "Learn?" Vorak leaned forward. "Your kind has not learned. You have simply found new places to spread your violence. The Council has watched your expansion with concern. You breed quickly. You build weapons constantly. You are like a virus that grows without control." The words were harsh, but Tae-ho kept his face neutral. "We build weapons because the universe taught us that weakness invites attack. We expand because our children need room to grow. We are not a virus, High Arbiter. We are simply young. And the young must be given a chance to prove themselves." For a moment, something flickered in Vorak's eyes. It might have been surprise that this small human did not tremble before him. But the moment passed quickly. "The Council has decided," Vorak announced. "Humanity's petition for membership is rejected. You are too primitive, too aggressive, and too dangerous. Return to your small corner of the galaxy and be grateful that we do not consider you a threat worth eliminating." Gasps came from some platforms. Even by Council standards, this was unusually cruel. Delegate Mira, a being with silver skin and kind eyes, looked at Tae-ho with something like sympathy. Taeho stood very still. Then he bowed his head slightly. "I understand," he said quietly. "I thank the Council for their time. Earth will remember this decision." He turned and walked away. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. No one had expected him to accept the insult so easily. Some thought he was weak. Others thought he was wise. None of them knew the truth. That night, Taeho sat in his quarters with Lieutenant Yuna. The room was small and plain. They had been given the worst accommodations on the station. "Another small insult, sir," Yuna said softly. "I noticed the guards changing their rotation. The new ones are not regular security. They are military." Taeho nodded slowly. He had noticed too. "They think we are animals," he said. "And now they want to put the animals in a cage. Or perhaps in a grave. Should I contact the Resolute?" "Not yet." Taeho stood and walked to the small window that looked out at the stars. "Let them make their move first. I want to know exactly what they are planning." Yuna watched him carefully. She had served with him for 5 years. But sometimes he still frightened her. Not because he was cruel or angry, but because he was so perfectly calm, even when death was walking toward them. "Sir, are you worried?" Taeho turned and smiled slightly. It was a gentle smile, almost sad. "No," he said. "I stopped being worried about death a long time ago. Death and I are old friends. We have walked together through many dark places." He looked back at the stars. "I am only worried about them. They do not know what they are about to wake up." The station's lights dimmed to signal the night cycle. Most beings on the council station were sleeping. The corridors were empty and quiet. Only the soft hum of machines filled the air. In a dark room far from the human quarters, General Thorne stood before a group of soldiers. He was massive, with thick armor plates growing from his skin and eyes like red coals. He had commanded the Council's military forces for 200 years. He had crushed rebellions and destroyed fleets. One small group of humans did not worry him at all. "The orders are simple," he said. "Capture the Diplomat alive. We will use him to send a message to Earth. Kill the others if you must. But try to take them alive as well. Prisoners are useful." One soldier raised a hand. "Sir, our intelligence says these humans are just diplomats. No military training. Should we expect any resistance?" Thorne made a sound like grinding rocks. It was his version of a laugh. "They are soft creatures from a soft world. They talk and smile and shake hands. They have forgotten how to fight. This will be over in minutes." The soldiers moved out, 30 of them, armed with weapons that could cut through starship armor. They walked through the corridors with confidence. Some of them were already thinking about what they would do after the mission. This was going to be easy. They reached the human quarters. The door was locked, but that meant nothing to them. One soldier placed a device on the lock, and it melted away. The door slid open silently. The room beyond was dark. The first team of 5 soldiers entered. They moved carefully, weapons ready, scanning every corner with their enhanced eyes. The beds were there. The furniture was there. But something was wrong. The beds were empty. Before the team leader could speak, something moved in the darkness. It was fast, faster than anything he had ever seen. There was a soft sound, like wind through leaves, and then the soldier next to him fell. No scream, no struggle, just a body hitting the floor. The team leader turned, raising his weapon. He saw nothing. Then he felt a hand on his throat, and everything went black. Outside the room, the other soldiers waited. 1 minute passed. Then 2. No sounds came from inside. No reports. Nothing. The second team entered. They found bodies on the floor, all 5 of them. They were not dead, but they were unconscious. Their weapons were gone. Their armor had been removed. "What is happening?" one soldier whispered. The answer came from the shadows. Park Taeho stepped into the light. His diplomatic uniform was gone, replaced by a simple black suit that seemed to absorb the light around him. His face was calm, his eyes steady. In his hands, he held a thin blade that gleamed like moonlight. "Good evening," he said politely. I apologize for the inconvenience. Please put down your weapons. The soldiers did not put down their weapons. Instead, they fired. Taeho moved. It was not running or jumping. It was something else. Something that seemed to bend the laws of physics. He flowed between the energy blasts, like water between rocks. The soldiers could not track him. Their weapons hit walls, floors, each other, but never him. In less than 30 seconds, all of them were on the ground. Lieutenant Yuna emerged from a side room, dragging the last conscious soldier by his collar. She dropped him in front of Taeho. "This one is alive," she said. "As you requested." Taeho knelt down and looked at the terrified soldier. The creature was shaking, his red eyes wide with something he had never felt before. "Fear. Listen carefully," Taeho said gently. "I am going to let you go. You will return to General Thorne and deliver a message. Can you do that?" The soldier nodded quickly. "Good," Taeho smiled. It was a kind smile, which somehow made it more frightening. "Tell your general that Earth sends its regards. Tell him that I am being very diplomatic right now. Tell him that if more soldiers come, I will be less diplomatic. Do you understand?" "Yes," the soldier managed to say. Taeho stood and stepped back. The soldier ran. He ran faster than he had ever run in his life. He did not look back. Yuna watched him go and then turned to Taeho. "They will send more. Many more. I know." Taeho wiped his blade clean and put it away. "That is what I want. Every soldier they send here is a soldier not protecting something else." "Ah, what are we protecting ourselves with?" "We have a blade and 2 hidden pistols." Taeho walked to the window and looked out at the station. "We are not trying to win a battle, Yuna. We are buying time. And we are sending a message." "Khan, what message?" He turned to look at her. In the dim light, his eyes seemed to glow with a strange fire. That humanity is not what they think. That we are not soft. That we are not afraid. And that attacking us was the worst mistake they could make. Alarms began to sound throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Voices shouted orders. Soldiers ran in every direction. General Thorne received the message from his surviving soldier. He listened in silence. Then he crushed the table in front of him with one fist. "One human," he growled. "One human did this?" "Sir." He moved. He was not normal. He was like a ghost. Like death itself. Thorne turned away. His pride burned like fire in his chest. He would not be humiliated by some primitive creature from a primitive world. "Send everyone," he ordered. "Every soldier on this station. I want that human captured or dead. Now." Far away, in the human quarters, Taeho heard the alarms and smiled softly. "It begins," he whispered to himself. "Let us see how deep this darkness goes." Delegate Mira could not sleep. Something was wrong on the station. She could feel it in the air, hear it in the distant alarms, see it in the frightened faces of the guards running past her quarters. She wrapped herself in a silver robe and walked to her personal terminal. "Show me the security feeds from the human delegation quarters," she said. The screen flickered. Then it showed only static. "Show me General Thorne's location." The screen displayed a map. Thorne was in the military command center, surrounded by hundreds of red dots representing soldiers. They were all moving toward one section of the station, the human section. Mira felt cold fear wash over her. She had watched the council meeting. She had seen the cruelty in Vorak's words. And she had seen something else in the human diplomat's eyes. Something that the others had missed because they were too busy laughing. She had seen patience. The kind of patience that predators have when they watch their prey. "Computer," she said quietly. "Access all available records on Park Taeho, human diplomat from Earth." The computer hummed. Public records show that Park Taeho served as a trade representative for 15 years before becoming a diplomat. He has visited 37 worlds as part of diplomatic missions. No military service recorded. That could not be right. Mira had seen the way he stood, the way he moved, the way his eyes tracked every person in the room. Those were not the habits of a trade representative. "Access classified records," Use my delegate authorization. There was a long pause. Then the computer spoke again. Warning. Some records are restricted by Earth government classification. Partial information available. Show me what you have. The screen filled with text and images. Mira read quickly. And with each line, her fear grew deeper. Park Tae-ho had not always been a diplomat. Before his peaceful career, he had been something very different. He was the commander of Division 0, humanity's most secret military unit. The division had no official existence. Its members had no names, no faces, no records. They were ghosts that appeared when humanity faced its darkest threats. During the First Contact Wars, when 3 hostile species attacked human colonies, Division 0 had responded. They did not fight like normal soldiers. They moved in shadows, struck without warning, and disappeared before anyone could react. Entire enemy fleets had been destroyed from the inside. Invasion forces had been broken before they could land. And at the center of it all was one man. His call sign was the Shepherd, because where he walked, death followed like an obedient flock. Mira found records of operations that made her sick to read. Not because they were cruel, but because they were so efficient. The Shepherd had ended the siege of New Manila by infiltrating an enemy command ship alone and eliminating its entire officer corps in one night. He had stopped the genocide on Kepler 7 by turning the attackers' own weapons against them. He had walked into impossible situations and walked out with victory in his hands. And then, suddenly, he had retired. He had put down his weapons and become a diplomat. The records did not explain why. Mira stared at the screen. The council had insulted this man. They had called him an animal. And now, General Thorne was trying to capture him with ordinary soldiers. They had no idea what they were dealing with. She ran. The corridors were chaos. Soldiers rushed past her, not caring about a delegate in a silver robe. Medical teams carried wounded fighters on stretchers. The wounded were not dead, she noticed. Just unconscious, with precise injuries that disabled without killing. He is holding back, she realized. He does not want to kill them. He is giving them a chance. She reached the council emergency chamber where High Arbiter Vorak sat with the other senior leaders. They were watching displays that showed the human cutting through their forces like wind through grass. High Arbiter, Mira shouted. You must stop this. You do not understand who you are fighting. Vorak barely glanced at her. One human cannot threaten the Galactic Council. General Thorne will capture him soon. No, he will not. Mira thrust her tablet forward. Look at these records. This man is not a diplomat. He is a weapon. He destroyed armies. He ended wars. Your soldiers are nothing to him. Vorak finally looked at the records. His ancient eyes moved across the text. For a moment, something like doubt crossed his face. But pride was stronger than wisdom. These records are probably false, he said. Human propaganda to frighten us. Even if they are true, he is one man alone on a station full of enemies. He cannot escape. On the displays, Tae-ho reached the station's communication array. Yuna was with him, covering his back as he worked on the controls. Within seconds, he had bypassed every security system. He sent one message. Just one word. Encrypted and compressed into a burst that lasted less than a second. Far away, in orbit behind the moon of Keth Prime, Commander Baekdo-yoon received the message on the bridge of the Resolute. He read the single word and smiled. Confirmed. He turned to his crew. Signal the fleet. Operation Shepherd is active. Prepare for full-spectrum cyber assault on all Council military vessels. 12 human warships powered up their systems. They had been waiting in silence for 3 days, invisible to every sensor. Now, they began their work. On the Council station, every light flickered. Every display showed static for 1 second. And on every military vessel in the system, alarms began to scream, airlocks locked, weapons went offline, navigation systems failed. The entire Council fleet was suddenly blind, deaf, and helpless. Vorak stared at the displays in horror. What is happening? He whispered. Mira looked at him with something like pity. The humans, she said quietly. They were never alone, and now they are done being diplomatic. General Thorne stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched his empire fall apart around him. Every screen showed the same message: system error. His weapons were dead, his engines were dead, his communications were dead. 300 warships, the pride of the Galactic Council, were now nothing more than floating metal boxes. How is this possible? He roared. How can they do this? His officers had no answer. They ran from terminal to terminal, trying to restore systems, trying to understand what had happened. Nothing worked. The human attack had been surgical, perfect, and absolute. A young officer looked up from his screen with terror in his eyes. "Sir, I am detecting ships emerging from behind the moon. Human ships. 12 of them." Thorne turned to the main display. The static cleared for just a moment, long enough to show him what was coming. The human vessels were smaller than Council warships, but they moved with a grace and precision that spoke of deadly purpose. They spread out in a formation that covered every escape route. The lead ship broadcast a message. Commander Baek Do-yun's voice filled the bridge. "Council vessels, this is Commander Baek Do-yun of the Earth vessel Resolute. Your systems have been disabled. You are surrounded. Any attempt to restore weapons or engines will result in immediate destruction. This is your only warning." Thorne slammed his fist against the console, cracking it. "This is impossible. The humans are primitives. They cannot have technology like this." But the evidence was floating all around him. Humanity had been watching, learning, preparing. While the Council laughed at them, the humans had built weapons that the galaxy had never seen. And now those weapons were aimed at the heart of galactic power. On the station, the situation was no better. Council soldiers had stopped chasing the human diplomat. There was no point anymore. Their commanders were giving confused orders. Their morale was shattered. Many of them were simply standing in corridors, weapons lowered, waiting to see what would happen next. Park Tae-ho walked through the chaos like a man taking a peaceful stroll. His black suit was torn in places, and there was a small cut on his cheek, but his eyes were calm as still water. Lieutenant Yuna walked beside him, her own weapon now visible in her hand. Behind them came the other members of the human delegation. Tae-ho had found them in a holding cell and freed them without a single shot. The guards had simply stepped aside when they saw him coming. Word had spread through the station about what this man had done. No one wanted to be the next one to fall. They reached the grand chamber. The great doors stood open. Inside, the council members waited in fear and confusion. Their floating platforms had descended to the floor. There was no more looking down on anyone. Tae-ho walked to the center of the chamber and stopped. He looked up at High Arbiter Vorak, who sat frozen in his seat like a statue carved from old stone. "High Arbiter," Tae-ho said. His voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner of the vast room. "We need to talk. We need to talk." Vorak tried to speak with authority, but his voice cracked. "You have attacked the council. This is an act of war." Tae-ho tilted his head slightly. "No. You attacked a diplomatic mission. Under your own laws, that is an act of war. I have simply defended myself and my people. The question now is, what happens next?" General Thorne's voice came through the chamber's speakers. He was still on his disabled flagship, watching through whatever sensors still worked. "You cannot win, human. Even if you destroy our fleet, more will come. The Council has 1,000 worlds. You have a few dozen. We will crush you eventually." Tae-ho smiled. It was not a threatening smile. It was almost sad. "General, I have studied your history very carefully. Do you know what I learned? The Council has won wars by having bigger numbers, better resources, more ships. You have never faced an enemy who fights the way we do." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We do not need 1,000 worlds to defeat you. We only need will. We only need patience. We only need to make every victory you win cost more than it is worth. Your soldiers will fear to sleep because they will not know if they will wake. Your ships will fear to travel because they will not know if they will arrive. Your leaders will fear to lead because they will become targets." The chamber was absolutely silent. This is not a threat, Taeho continued. This is a simple statement of fact. Humanity has been fighting wars since before your species learned to build fire. We have fought ourselves, and we have survived. We have fought diseases, disasters, and extinction. And we have survived. Do you really think we are afraid of you? He turned slowly, looking at every delegate, every representative, every frightened face in the chamber. I was sent here to offer friendship. That offer still stands. But if you choose war, you will not be fighting a primitive species from a small world. You will be fighting the most dangerous thing in this galaxy. Humans with nothing left to lose. Vorak finally found his voice. What do you want? Taeho faced him directly. Justice. General Thorne, and everyone who planned this attack, will surrender for trial. The Council will issue a formal apology to Earth, and you will reconsider our petition for membership. And if we refuse? Taeho did not answer. He simply looked at the displays showing the frozen Council fleet, surrounded by human warships. The answer was obvious. Vorak closed his eyes. For 600 years, he had ruled this chamber. No one had ever spoken to him like this. No one had ever made him feel so small, but he was old enough to recognize the truth when he saw it. General Thorne will be surrendered, he said quietly. Taeho bowed his head slightly. Thank you, High Arbiter. That is all I ask. 3 days passed. The station slowly returned to normal. But nothing was truly the same. The laughter that once filled the corridors was gone. Beings spoke in whispers. They looked over their shoulders. They avoided the human delegation as if they were made of fire. General Thorne was taken from his flagship in chains. He walked with his head high, refusing to show shame. But everyone could see the defeat in his eyes. Behind him came 17 officers and council members who had planned the attack. They would face trial under council law, and everyone knew what the verdict would be. The human fleet remained in position, a silent reminder of what had happened. Commander Baek Do-yoon had released the council vessels from their electronic prison. But the message was clear. What had been done once could be done again. In a small room near the Grand Chamber, Delegate Mira sat across from Park Taeho. She had asked for this meeting, and he had agreed without hesitation. Tea sat between them, a human drink that she found surprisingly pleasant. I read your records, she said. The classified ones. I know what you did during the contact wars. Taeho nodded slowly. I assumed someone would find them eventually. The siege of New Manila, the rescue of Kepler-7, the destruction of the Vorn command fleet. She paused. You killed thousands. Yes. There was no pride in his voice. No shame either. Just simple acknowledgement. And then you stopped. You became a diplomat. Why? Taeho was quiet for a long moment. He looked at his tea, watching the steam rise and disappear. Because killing is easy, he finally said. Anyone can destroy. It takes no special talent to end a life. But building something, creating peace, bringing different peoples together, that is hard. That is worthy work. He looked up at her. I was very good at war. Too good. After the contact wars ended, I looked at my hands, and I did not like what I saw. So I chose a different path. I chose to build instead of destroy. But you have not forgotten how to destroy. No. And I never will. Because sometimes, the only way to protect peace is to be capable of terrible war. The galaxy respects strength. If humanity appeared weak, we would be conquered or destroyed. So we must be strong, even as we seek friendship. Mira considered his words. They made a sad kind of sense. The Council will accept humanity's petition, she said. The vote will happen today. It will be unanimous. I know. They are not accepting you because they want to. They are accepting you because they are afraid. Quote. Taeho smiled gently. That is fine. Fear can become respect. Respect can become understanding. Understanding can become friendship. It takes time. We are patient. The Grand Chamber was full again. Every delegate, every representative, Every observer who could find a seat was present. The floating platforms rose high into the air once more, but now they looked less like thrones and more like perches for frightened birds. High Arbiter Vorak stood at his podium. He looked older than he had 3 days ago. The events had aged him in ways that years could not. The Council will now vote on the petition of Earth for full membership in the Galactic Council, he announced. His voice was steady, but there was no arrogance in it anymore. Park Tae-ho stood alone in the center of the chamber, just as he had during his first visit. But everything was different now. The beings who had laughed at him were silent. The ones who had dismissed him watched with careful attention. The vote was quick. 312 species, 312 votes in favor, none against. Vorak nodded slowly. The petition is accepted. Earth is now a full member of the Galactic Council. With all rights and responsibilities that membership brings, there was no applause, no celebration. Just a heavy silence that spoke of lessons learned the hard way. Tae-ho bowed to the chamber. Thank you, High Arbiter. Thank you, honored delegates. Humanity is grateful for this opportunity. We will work to earn your trust and your friendship. He paused and looked around the room one last time. We came to you with open hands. We offered trade, culture, knowledge, and friendship. Some of you answered with chains and weapons. Let this be the last time such a mistake is made. His voice grew softer, but somehow carried even further. Humanity does not start wars, but we end them. Every single time. Remember that. Not as a threat, but as a promise. Stand with us, and we will defend you with everything we have. Stand against us, and you will learn why our history is written in the ashes of those who tried to destroy us. He bowed again and walked out of the chamber. Lieutenant Yuna and the rest of the delegation followed. The doors closed behind them. An hour later, Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the Resolute. The station grew smaller in the viewport as the ship pulled away. Commander Baek Do-yoon stood beside him, arms crossed, a slight smile on his weathered face. Well done, Ambassador, Do-yoon said. Though I have to admit, when you sent that signal, I was not sure you would still be alive to see us arrive. I had faith, Tae-ho replied, in my people, in my ship, and in humanity's ability to surprise those who underestimate us. Lieutenant Yuna approached them quietly. Sir, do you think this peace will last? Tae-ho watched the stars outside the viewport, billions of them, scattered across the darkness like seeds waiting to grow. Peace always lasts longer when the other side is afraid to break it, he said. But I hope that one day, they will not be our friends because of fear. I hope they will be our friends because they choose to be. Because they see us as we truly are. RD, and what are we truly? Do-yoon asked. Tae-ho smiled. It was a real smile, warm and hopeful. We are human. We are flawed and complicated, and sometimes terrible. But we are also brave and creative and full of wonder. We reach for the stars because we cannot stop reaching. We dream because we cannot stop dreaming. And we love because, in the end, that is the only thing that truly matters. He turned away from the viewport. Take us home, Commander. Our work here is done. But our story is just beginning. The Resolute turned toward Earth. The human fleet followed in perfect formation. Behind them, the Galactic Council station hung in space, forever changed by the visit of one quiet diplomat who carried death in his hands and hope in his heart. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.